The India story in Davos 2022 has really been a fairly impressive one, which sees the presence of several state governments over here. There are strong headwinds at one level as far as the India story is concerned. Inflation is certainly a big concern. Fuel prices, food security, these are larger themes. But the core interest that several potential investors are showing on Indian states is something which really does need to be spoken about. One of the states which has done a lot of work over here this year is the state of Telangana. K.T. Rama Rao with us. Thanks very much for being with us. For starters, it's a great pavilion you have. I mean, it's large, it's spacious. Has there been a great deal of interest in people coming in and investing even more in Telangana?
Vishnu, I'd like to call my state a startup state because we've been founded, or we've been created as a new state about 8 years ago. And we've been coming to Davos. Now this is the fourth year in a row.
Our youngest state, right?
Youngest, and also now we are a veteran in Davos because we've been coming here for 4 years in a row.
Right.
So therefore, we are very familiar with the ecosystem here. We are very familiar with the World Economic Forum, a lot of people that work there. And what has happened in the last 8 years, Vishnu, is we've been able to create a very positive image for Telangana because of all the networking we've done here.
Yeah.
The fact that Telangana is a very important hub in a number of important industry sectors such as life sciences. Since we're just about coming out of the pandemic, I think it's important to talk about healthcare and life sciences spectrum.
Sure.
And technology is another, information technology is another very important sector for us. So in the last 4 or 5 years of us coming here, I think what we've been able to accomplish is basically create relationships, a lot of networking opportunities, a lot of people that were unfamiliar with the India story. I keep saying one thing, while India is a country and while we all work under the larger rubric of India, the fact is there are 28 different Indias, especially when it comes to investment. So there are 28 different gateways to choose from, and it all depends on what version you pick on your impression of India. So therefore, choosing the right kind of vehicle, because while the overarching foreign direct policy decisions or export-import regulations, etc., depend on Government of India, the action is really in the states.
Sure. So let's talk about Telangana very specifically, because we were discussing various areas of excellence, and this is world-class excellence. It's not just restricted to India. Pharma, and I have been covering vaccines very closely. India is an area of excellence, but in terms of overall vaccine manufacture, I'm talking about COVID vaccine manufacture, the statistics out of Telangana are stupendous at a global level. What are those statistics?
Vishnu, firstly, not just COVID, but I think human vaccines at large. We are the vaccine capital of the world. 33% of global human vaccines are produced from Telangana. Between Sanofi, Bharat, Biotech, Biological Evans and Indian Immunologicals, we produce 9 billion doses, and that accounts for nearly 1/3 of human vaccines produced globally. That makes us the vaccine hub of the world. And more importantly, not just vaccines, but we are also the bulk drugs and pharmaceuticals capital of India. And we are actually in the process of creating the world's largest pharma cluster in about 19,000 acres. Last week we were in London. We entered into a memorandum of understanding with King's College, basically trying to set up a world-class life sciences university in Telangana as part of the pharma city, which is the vision of our Honorable Chief Minister. And what we're even more kicked about is as a city where biology meets technology, as a city where data sciences meets life sciences.
Medtech.
Medtech, and more importantly, Vishnu, the interface of technology and life sciences, technology and biology is what makes it an exciting frontier. Because the next decade or next 2 decades, if you ask me, are going to belong to life sciences because, the leveraging technology, emerging technologies such as AI, ML, robotics, all of these is going to make Hyderabad an exciting place to invest.
Let's talk about Medtech, life sciences and data coming together. You were talking about 2 companies, Novartis, Medtronics as well. These bring up the high end at one level, but it's an area which sees a huge investment and huge possibilities and huge employment significantly as well. Could you tell us about Medtech? We've spoken about vaccines and vaccine manufacture. Let's talk about Medtech. How is Telangana an area of excellence?
Well, Novartis is a large pharmaceutical company, a global pharmaceutical company. They have their second largest base in Hyderabad, about 9,000 people all working in digital drug discovery. They employ AI and ML to do a lot of clinical management, clinical trial management. They employ a lot of biostatisticians, biomedical engineers and bioinformatics. What they do from Telangana is something truly that India can take a lot of pride in. In fact, it's a digital innovation hub. And what they do is really cutting edge, and it is extremely important in their scheme of things. What we've been telling other pharma companies and other life sciences companies is, if a Novartis can actually do this from India, you could do the same. And in fact, it's a matter of pride that Hyderabad and Telangana are home to Novartis. Now, Medtronic again is a world-class medical devices company. We have India's largest medical devices park in Telangana in about 300 acres, out of which we have 50 different med devices companies working from. And we have Asia's largest stent manufacturer also operating from this Medtech park. Now, Medtronic has invested more than 1,200 crores. Again, their second largest base in the world is also in Telangana. So the convergence of information technology and life sciences is what makes it interesting for the next 1 or 2 decades. And I'm a very, very strong believer that with technology permeating into every sphere of life, information technology is basically going to rule the roost for the next couple of decades.
It's interesting how you have sort of, you fit into this role of promoting technology so well. I mean, it's obviously something that interests you at a personal level as well, the interface of technology and policy. You aren't a typical political leader, are you?
Well,
you're sort of a
Vishnu, politics is changing.
A tech-driven political leader.
Politics is changing. I'm not a coder. I can't write a piece of program, but I can tell you,
what it
as
means.
long as politicians and as long as policy makers understand the power of technology on our lives. Because remember, Vishnu, there was a time in India, I'm sure you and I both growing up would remember, that to get a landline connection, you had to request an MP to give you a recommendation letter, then wait for
and the phones going round and round.
The funny thing that we used
I remember
to
Kolkata back in the day; it was horrific.
But now
even dial 10 times to maybe get a call.
Absolutely, and remember now, remember that those days, and now with telecom revolution and the whole 4G, 5G, 6G thing that is being talked about now, even the most common man in India, irrespective of the social strata they come from, they have a couple of mobile phones. So the thing is, technology and the power it holds over humanity in terms of what it can bring is something that cannot be undermined from a policy perspective. So therefore, I'm not a technologist myself, but I understand the power of technology and how it can help a larger good.
The T-Hub, the world's largest incubation facility. By world's largest, what do you mean?
Well, in terms of physical square footage, it's 375,000 square feet, and it's bigger than Station F, which is the largest incubator in Paris. So we are launching it on the 28th of June. As it is, we have India's largest tech incubator. But this T-Hub Phase 2, when it would be launched end of June, I would of course invite you. But it would have 2,000 startups working under one roof, and it will have everything that a startup would require in terms of innovation, incubation, and incorporation and scaling up.
Right. That sounds really impressive, and in fact, the images of the structure itself are very, very large, significant. Onto a completely different area which we were talking about, lift irrigation. You have the world's largest lift irrigation facility. So, just describe to us the significance of this.
Well, Telangana is a very interesting state in terms of geography. In fact, if you look at it, it's very undulating, and the rivers, the two major rivers, Krishna and Godavari, flow at a much lower level than the land terrain. So what happens is, obviously, in terms of irrigation potential, well, there is a lot of it because we have variable land. We have to lift water. So our Honorable Chief Minister took it upon himself. And in 75 years of India, no government has done what we have done in terms of irrigation potential and in the expeditious manner in which we have delivered. We lift water from about 82 meters above sea level through a multi-stage lift irrigation project named as Kaleshwaram. We take water almost to 618 meters. And now what this has done, this project is basically, it has been completed, commissioned now. It has irrigated 45 lakh acres. And if you assume 2 crops, then it would be 90 lakh acre potential, which makes it the world's largest. We take a great deal of pride in talking about this because, all along we've been hearing about Chinese execution and, what has been accomplished in another country. But now India can take a lot of pride in showcasing this project to the rest of the world and say that, we have completed this project in a breakneck speed.
Aviation, another area of excellence. You've got Boeing manufacturing in Hyderabad itself. Besides anything else, it's a huge employment opportunity. It's not just transfer of technology, it's actually very skilled people or people who are trained to pick up skills and then they add to an ecosystem in aviation. That's been missing in our country.
Vishnu, in fact, before I talk about Boeing, let me tell you, yesterday Luke Remont of Schneider was here. He was telling me some piece of good news. He said, their center, their manufacturing center in Hyderabad has just been awarded as an Industry 4.0 smart manufacturing hub, which makes it on par with the best of their facilities in the world. Now, Indian manufacturing and India's ability to manufacture at scale, and in comparison with the best in the world is something that we should take a lot of pride in. Having said that, I think not only Boeing, we have Lockheed, we have Sikorsky, we have I can go on Pratt and Whitney, we have GE, we have number of aerospace and defense companies, because Hyderabad has had a large ecosystem, starting from our defense PSUs a few decades ago, and that has created more than 1,000 SMEs in Hyderabad. Today, not just Boeing, but a lot of suppliers to Boeing. When India sent MOM, the Mars Orbiter mission, 30% of the components were made by the SMEs in Hyderabad. And more importantly, even French submarine, the nuclear submarine called Scorpion, sources its parts from Hyderabad's ecosystem. So it's a not a
nuclear submarine, but the Scorpion, which the Indian Navy uses, right? It's conventional, but yes, a lot of parts do come from Hyderabad, Telangana. That's really impressive. But, I can't let you go unless I ask you a few political questions. Now, are you going to throw me out of your beautiful pavilion?
You can stay put here all day.
I feel safe over here. Are you forging a third front, a meeting of non-Congress leaders? Is that something that is actively something which your party is looking at?
Well, I do believe that both the national parties, and we do believe as a party, that both Congress and BJP in those last 75 years of independent India have really let down the nation. Vishnu, if you think about it for a minute and leave aside the political virtues and overtones, in 1987, both India and China were equal in terms of GDP, 470 billion. What happened in the last 35 years? Today they are at 16 trillion, we're languishing at 3 trillion. All these dreams that we're shown of 5 trillion economy, unfortunately are not realized firstly, and secondly actually they're a letdown if you ask me. Because 25 consecutive years of double-digit growth is what China has accomplished. Where are we at? What are we focusing on? We don't still have every village of ours connected with a good BT road. We still have villages languishing for lack of power. We still have millions of homes without potable drinking water. So as a country, I think these two national parties, which have been given a chance over the last 75 years, have let us down. So my party and my leader, our Honorable Chief Minister, believes that the national, it's not about a third front or a fourth front. It's about setting another alternative agenda for the nation, where we need to, a country like Singapore.
So without Congress?
I'm saying, it's about an alternate
I
agenda.
Understand what you're saying, but in terms of numbers, Sharad Pawar, for example, says you can't keep the Congress out.
Who knows? I mean, there are multiple viewpoints in that, but what I would like to believe is that both Congress and BJP have let down this nation.
And in terms of your party extending itself outside Telangana itself, are we going to see a real nationwide presence?
Who knows, Vishnu? Who knows what future has in store for all of us?
But is that a goal?
See, I believe what Telangana has accomplished in the last 7 years, if that can be replicated at a country level, why not? Why should we not present this?
But are you working
this
towards
model?
That?
We might. I mean, like I said, I think
And
we are
showcasing.
There was a Gujarat model that was talked about prior to 2014. I think a real development model in Telangana, where we have been able to connect each and every home with a portable drinking water connection, where our per capita income has risen from 1,24,000 in 2014 to 2,78,000 rupees now, where our GSDP has risen from 5,06,000 crores to 11.55 lakh crores now. I think this is real development, real economic progress. If this needs to be talked about, if this needs to take center stage, I think we should welcome it.
A final question on this, actually a second last question on this. Presidential elections coming up now, are you going to be working with the opposition to try and push for a consensus candidate?
Well, I think our leader, our party president will take a call on that, but I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, I think still the election is not announced. Mr. Kovind is still the president.
One final question, just going back to what you were saying, I'm just trying to understand, you don't believe that in a third front, fourth front, forget about the words, in an opposition alliance, you don't believe the Congress would have a serious
let me put it this way, Vishnu.
Political presence?
Our opposition to a specific party is not what should bind us. I think our love for the nation is what should bind us. I think our blind hatred or opposition for BJP or NDA is not what the glue that we should be looking at. In fact, the greater good of this country, the prosperity, what missed opportunities this nation has suffered from over the last few decades is something that we all ought to focus on. If that needs a new narrative, why not?
And when you speak to people over here, are you asked questions on why is there polarization taking place in India? Why are you talking about Gyan? Why are you digging up your history? I mean, where do you stop? Where do you stop digging?
When I'm in Switzerland, when I'm in Davos, I represent India, Vishnu.
Sure.
So therefore, anybody, when they ask me any question about India, of course I defend my country.
Sure.
I am a proud Indian, Telanganite, second, Telangana second. But when it comes to the internal discussion, of course, I share a lot of those sentiments. But unfortunately, those issues that need to take center stage are not being discussed, while halals, hijabs and all other nonsense, unfortunately the polarizing stuff that gets discussed becomes national headlines. I'm hoping that at least NDTV doesn't succumb to those temptations and actually puts economy, inflation, jobs at the center stage and things that really matter.
Yeah? That's a promise.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful speaking to you, and thank you so much for pushing this vision of India and of growth over here in Davos. Telangana has so much to offer. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Thank you very much indeed. Well, there you have it. KT Rama Rao speaking to us about the potential which actually exists in Telangana. He talks a lot about technology, he talks a lot about skilling, he talks a lot about business opportunities. This is in a sense a new India that he's trying to promote. India does remain a dominant theme in Davos. It has been that for several years. There are headwinds which exist at perhaps the macro level. Inflation, other factors affect many other countries around the world as well. But the India story is perhaps intrinsically positive.